So welcome to Boxing Media Hub, sponsored by Falcon Contracting and boxbets.co.uk. And with me now, I've got a special guest. I've got Liz Barker. How you doing, Liz?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Honestly, it's a pleasure to have you on. To be fair, when I look at what you've been through and everything you've achieved, I just think, wow, what an amazing woman.
Thank you. Although in my head, I'm like, that's not all in boxing, I guess.
Yeah. But we'll get to that. Yeah, it's been a journey. I think that's the best way to describe it. We'll go right to the beginning. When did you first sort of lace up a pair of gloves?
So I actually hadn't put on a pair of gloves until I was 28 years old. So I got into boxing late in life. I was working in a gym, so I've always been in like fitness as a job. And I started working in a gym that had a boxing ring. And I've always actually fancied Muay Thai. I used to look at it and think, I want to give that a go, and never got around to it. And I suddenly find myself working in a gym that has a boxing ring. And cut a long story short, I was managing the gym, and there was a fight in the gym on my first week of working there. And I didn't know who this guy was, but basically loads of people got involved, and I kicked the two people involved out. And then was like, the next day found out it was one of the trainers that worked there, because I hadn't got to know everyone yet. And he was like, yeah. And anyway, he turned out to be, I ended up getting to know him. He offered me a session, didn't fire him. And I was just like, I get to know this guy. And anyway, it turns out it was the other guy that caused the problem, just one of those heated moments. But yeah, just started doing some boxing with him. And the first time I put gloves on, and really loved it. And started training like 6 days a week, just loving it. And got really into it, and decided I wanted to do a white collar fight, because everyone kept saying you should fight, jesting, watching me. I was quite good at it. I've done lots of sport in the past, and like across multiple things, one of them being judo. So I've always had that kind of competitive and like martial arts and the discipline of it. So I thought, right, I'm training this hard, I'm doing this a lot, let's try it. And I thought hopefully it'll let me. I actually thought hopefully that'll be the end of it. Sorry, I've got my dogs in the kitchen. I thought hopefully that'll be the end of it. And then I won't like it. But it was the best day of my life. And I was like, that's it. I had the fight on the Saturday, and on the Monday I went and found an amateur club, and started trying to find like where I wanted to box and who I wanted to box for. And yeah, it started there really.
Because what was it? Amateur from 2012 to 2017.
Yeah, I'm going to go and let her out, because I think she's
go for it.
Anyway, sorry.
Don't worry about it.
On a live session.
No problem at all. Anything can happen. So yeah, Liz was just chatting about her amateur background, working at a gym, and as you say, that time frame, sort of about around a 5 year period of being an amateur. Yeah,
so I guess I boxed for like 2 years just in the gym, and then I did this white collar, and then I joined an amateur club, and I was working. I had so that's a story in itself, like trying to find an amateur club. Now the dogs are fighting. Not doing well here, are we?
That's fine, don't worry.
Do you want to just see them so you can see these guys? Look at them. Where are they? Anyway, that's what's going on in the background.
The fights continue now. Do you know what?
Yeah, take it from me, I think. So yeah, I was looking for an amateur club, and there weren't many females in the clubs. So I used to call or sign up or go and try it out. And yeah, sometimes they just thought I was a guy going to be turning up and hadn't read on the website who it was, and it's just trying to find the right place. It was a pretty. I mean, obviously women's boxing has taken off then, but back then, we're talking over 10 years ago, was difficult to find a space that felt like you're accepted. But ended up boxing for Fitzroy Lodge, and within about 4 months I got my first fight, and some of the guys there have been waiting like 18 months. So I was really lucky to just sort of put my head down, and always worked in fitness, so I guess and I'm used to like male dominated environments, having worked in the gym, and yeah, just got on with it really. And I think in the end the kind of hard work paid off, and yeah, I got a fight, and loved it. And and that was my amateur journey, which also stopped partly due to an injury as well. And then I took a break, and then came back to it during lockdown at age 38. So yeah, got into boxing like overall amateur and professional, and in general very, very late in life, I guess, from a boxer's point of view anyway.
Yeah. So you were saying turned pro at 38, 30th of October 2021 was your...
That was my debut, yeah.
Against, what a name as well, Karina
Schmallenberg. She was the girl that Katie Taylor first boxed for her
She's
debut.
got a hell of a resume, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So it was my fight actually got changed. The lead up to that fight was 6 fights cancelled because of the lockdowns and all the rules kept changing. And then, so when that went ahead, she was called up, I think 48 hours before. So we've been training for another name I can't pronounce, a really tall opponent. And so the style, we adapted my style. And then like within 48 hours, I was like, I'm not turning a fight down, I'm going for it. So, I'd done all that. And finally it was going ahead. So yeah, went for it and just sort of really, it was kind of more, voice notes to my coach, and I was tapering and down that week when it all changed. But yeah, it went. It was a great fight, and I loved every minute of it. And unfortunately, that was my one and only, my debut and my retirement. Not that I knew that at the time, but
yeah. Well, that's the shocker of this story, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we'd finally got to the point that we'd dreamed of, and then disaster struck almost.
Yeah, so the camps that I was in, so I mean I trained for this fight for about 18 months. So I was training as a professional boxer for a long time, based on the fact I would have come in a lot quicker, but based on the fact there were no fights happening, because of you couldn't get groups of people together. And then every time, lockdown, it opened and everything shut again, the open and lock, everything that kept happening. So they kept getting cancelled. And I've had back problems like all my life. So when I was 11, I slipped my disc. I mean, that's how bad my back was. And so I've always had a weakness there. And I slipped a disc, like I said, when I was younger, then had problems again when I was like 18 to 21, and then had no problems at all for years. And my back had just been tightening up during training to the point where I'd train, I'd be warm and I'd feel amazing. So you'd see me move in the gym, I'd look great. And then the next morning, I could hardly I was like, oh my God, it's stiff. Anyway, and I thought it was fractured at the time because I've had a fracture before, and I was like, it's just feeling really stiff. And then but the muscles felt like they could move, and I thought everything was protecting around it. Anyway, I went into the fight, and once I was warm, I was fine. But we agreed that I'd go and get a scan, basically post-fight, and actually go and sort it out for once and for all. And it turns out I had basically this slippage where your disc moved back towards it. Normally, you get them in like a car crash. So to do it, having boxing trained, I must have been, basically it's an overuse injury, I think is what they said in the end. But where the cancer kept going, you'd normally take a break, and then you'd start your camp again. And I've been just doing camp, back to back, and training 6 days a week, twice a day, and I'm an older boxer. So you've got to, and I've done other sports in the past as well. So to a high level, and I think my body's just, basically saying no. So had the scan, went and started to rehab, was feeling positive about it. I'd come back to the gym. I think I had 3 weeks off, and I got loads of treatments and loosened everything off, came back and felt amazing. And then just threw a right, I was sparring, and I just threw a right hand to the body, and I just went down onto my knees, and I pulled a hamstring on the left side, which then caused more weakness. And it basically led to my back going again. And this kind of whole cycle of little things kept happening. And it was so close, it was a millimetre from my spinal cord. So the disc was like pressing. So every time it inflames, luckily they were confident it wouldn't move, because that was the first worry. Will this move into my, actually into the spinal cord? Because normally they go forwards, and it's just in your abdominal area, which is like, not so dangerous because the abdomen's just open, but it's more unsupported. But because it was kind of wedged in, it's basically given me a lot of restricted movement, so I can't fully rotate. And obviously everything in boxing is, rotation through the hips. So anyway, I just kept having this repeat cycle, and it got so bad that I couldn't even walk the dogs in the morning. I'd have to go and walk to the park, which was like a 3-minute walk. I couldn't stand and even make my coffee without then having to sit in a squat position, because that was the only bit that relieved it. Saw a really good strength coach who's a friend of mine, but also they run a rehabilitation gym in the city. Worked with him for ages, and it got better. But I don't know, my impatience and a mixture of, probably not doing enough and having overdone it just at my age. And I just decided at the point where even my coach, we sat down and had a conversation about it, and my manager, and it just got to the point where I'd come back to the gym 4 or 5 times, start working in a camp, get halfway through it, and the back would go again. And it was now intervening on. I mean, I do other things like, other than walking, like surfing. I enjoy life in general, and I love physical activity. And it got to the point where I couldn't do that. And I was a personal trainer, and I'm sitting down in my PT sessions. Yeah, I'm a professional boxer. I mean, it just got to the stage where I had to make a call on it. And even to this day, I've done permanent damage, and I still struggle with, like, I can't run more than about a mile without having to stretch, and then I can do another one, and 3K is kind of my tops now. So, you know, that's another thing I used to love. So I think it's like recognizing that, you know, as much as the mind might want to do it and you're willing, it's not worth the long-term life sacrifices that would have caused. So, yeah, it's a difficult decision, and just took some time off, and that's where I'm at. And then my manager sort of sat down, and now you've just got my coach's license, so I'm hoping to get in, you know, but involved in a different way. So yeah, so it's been I mean, I've loved every minute, but yeah, it was a short, and I was hoping to, you know, I had some goals and aspirations, and I used all the people that were up. The reason I went pro was I watched Eddie Hearn's first all-female show in his back garden during lockdown.
Yeah,
and the
quality
on there I used to train with, they were all in my gym, and we used to do, you know, we had like the London girls squad, and we were all training together, and Ramla Ali was at my gym, and I don't know, I just felt like I looked at her and went, I can still do that, I reckon. And I went back and saw my old coach, and he was in a pro gym, and you know, you just felt, and I thought, do you know what? And then I met my manager, and he said he'd give me a shot, and you know, it went from there really. And and so I guess, yeah, it's been a journey, and but it's to understand boxing, you know, from the professional level is so different to the amateurs. I've learned a lot as well. So yeah,
I just think you're incredible. The way you've taken a positive out of something that would have taken the wind out of someone's sails majorly and made them would have not want to go near a gym or not have any physical activity, because it can do that, can't it? It can get to that point where it almost just becomes, I don't want to do that. I'm totally shutting off from that. Where to get your coaching license, I just think that's amazing. And now you're going to give back to something that gave you such an amazing time. Do you know what I mean? You're going to.
I think that was one of the hardest things. Leaving the gym, one of the hardest things was leaving that coach relationship. So my coach Rick, you know, they give up a lot of time, you know, and you're not earning the big bucks especially when you're on your debut and your first, you know, and you're my age, you know, like to give me a shot at that age in itself was, you know, a big thing. And the relationship you have with a coach, you know, when that relationship works, is like, it's like a remote control. They understand you more than you understand yourself. And so it's a real like family vibe, and you feel like you owe it to them as much to yourself. So even though, you know, he was saying, you know, rest, do that, I found it like to actually say, I'm going to walk away from this, felt like I was letting people down. And that's not something I like to do in life, you know, with anything. No. And I'm really headstrong. So whether I like something or not, if I've committed to it and I say I'm going to do it, I'm sticking to it. And it was a really, you know, and it's something that was, you know, 20 hours of my life every week. So it's a real hole to fill. And it's something just, I love boxing, not because of even the boxing, it's because of the mental side. It's so much involved.
Yeah.
And mentally, every time I leave the gym, I feel on top of the world, and it improves every area of my life. So it's a, you know, I can still box. I go once a week and I just do a bit of pads, and, you know, but any more than that is literally my limit. And even then I have to do like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, but I'm just glad I can still, you know, put my gloves on and hit the bag or hit some pads. And so, yeah, I think the coaching thing is, and you realize actually when I coach for a living, I coach boxing a little bit, but also I coach, you know, mental health, and I coach clients through training, and you realize like what you get back when you coach. And I also coach kids as well. And there's so much that in giving you get back anyway, but the shift from boxer to coach, I actually did step away from the gym. I haven't been in the gym up until 2 weeks ago for 6 months, because I just needed that. Needed a clean break to change that mindset, because it's very hard. And I found this as an amateur when I finished my amateur, not finished my amateur, kind of stopped, and then I moved and was running a business, but I was still kind of training. But every time I went back to a gym that was an amateur gym, I just wanted to fight again, but knew I didn't have the time to commit to it, and knew it had made me sick at the time. I was basically overtraining, so I had a whole other story back then as well. And again, it's what you, as a person, in order to be, you know, an athlete and push yourself, especially in a sport like boxing or any professional sport or any sport to a high level, you have to give it your all. So you become kind of obsessed with it, and it's your everything, like you were saying at the beginning. And to then not do that or half do that, you can't half do boxing. You can't walk in. And so, you know, to be in it is very hard then not to, for your own detriment as well. When you're injured, you can't. I had to step away basically, and now it's like a new head on. Okay, I want to get back involved, and Yeah, and it's nice actually to talk about this on, you know, today. Like I said to you, I don't know whether you want to interview, I'm retired and this was my career, and actually, you know, it still has meaning and understanding, but it's probably taken me a lot more to learn this than it did to learn to fight, you know, to step away. Saying, you know, actually saying I can't do this is a harder thing than I'll go for this when you've got that kind of mindset, I guess.
Yeah, and as you say, boxing's an all or nothing. You know, if you're going into a fight half-hearted, you're already beaten.
Yeah.
You if you've got that mindset, then don't bother, because it is that sport. You know, it's not like, I don't know. I'm not slagging.
What's the saying? You don't play boxing. You know, you can't play boxing.
Like I say, yeah, definitely. But you're a lady of many talents. I haven't dug in it or spoke to anyone. You've got your, you know, the coaching license, but you do, as you say, your retreat company as well.
Yeah, so I've always been in fitness, and actually this relates a little bit to what I didn't tell you about. So when I was an amateur boxer, I had an age cut-off then. So it's always been about age with me. So because I got into it late, so when I first started, there was a cut-off of it was 32 or 34. I think it was 34. So and there weren't many females in it, and it was like, okay, if I'm going to give this a shot, I'm gonna, and you know, for females, it is easier than the guys because there's less competition, right? So to get somewhere quicker, you know, you're still fighting, but you can get there quicker because, and normally the competition's higher because everyone's, you know, at quite a similar level. But yeah, so I really trained hard, and I didn't really, as I was a trainer, but I was in that old school boxing environment, which is like, you know, don't drink water, train 3 hours a day, run, you know, it's very different in the professional environment. And it's my dog. And basically I was running a business. I co-founded my own gym and opened my own gym. I was cycling into the city every day. So I was doing about 30 to 40 miles a day on my bike, and I had a fixie, of course, no gears. So I'm pushing it on that. I'm training in the morning, or I'm running to work with I had a marine style backpack on, so I could do my run and get to work to like save time. I was living on a boat because it was cheap, because I didn't have any money because I was setting up a business. And it had, I mean, like, I used to go to sleep with a hat on and a hood on. So every aspect of my life was kind of pushing it to the limit and stressful. I'd get up at 3 a.m. so I could get to the gym, train, then I'd start my first client at 5. And then on top of seeing clients to pay our bills, I was making money. And then I'd go to training. I train in the day some point, and then I train in the evening. I mean, I knew I would never recommend that to a client. But as a PT, that's what I was doing. And I just ran myself into the ground. I got burnout, and I ended up kept having night sweats and things, and kind of like these mini fits. And I went to the doctors, and they did like this blood profile, and I got sent for referral, and they're like, how are you feeling? I was like, I feel amazing. And I was like, honestly felt I was light. I was running around. I was like on this adrenaline, and like my thyroid had gone through the roof. My heart rate was over 200 beats at rest, which, to give you an idea, I was just like this all the time.
It's horrific.
Yeah. And it turned out I had problems on my thyroid. So anyway, and then they started to look at all areas of what was going on, and I ended up having a problem with my hypothalamus axis, which controls basically your thyroid, which controls all the hormones in your body. So everything was all over the place, you know, like estrogen down, testosterone up. They tested me for Cushing's disease, for adrenal fatigue, like so many different things. And so for 1.5 years, I had all these tests, and even things like you can't have kids because my estrogen was like 0. It's all come back now, but at the time I had to go through a lot. You know, I wasn't really talking to anyone about it either. I was kind of like, I turned vegan. I thought I'll just make myself healthier. I'll train harder, you know, like just causing more and more stress. And in the end, I exited my business, and that in itself was stressful. And I ended up going traveling, and I went to Bali, which I'd never been to at the time before, one of my favorite places now. And I love surfing. So the other side of me has always done outdoor sport. So I went and surfed. I did just like yoga classes, which again, I never used to really do. I was doing, you know, swimming every day, no alarm set, like all the things, and just eating really good food because it's all fresh out there, and it's, you know, and not counting calories. And I basically came back and did my blood results, and they started to improve. And I was like, okay, there's a thing here. So I started my retreats company, and basically it was about taking people on these awesome adventures away from their day-to-day, because most of the time I've worked with people in the city who are like high stressed. I might as well get her on in a minute. She can chat. Right, it's a puppy, in case you're wondering. So yeah, I was, basically dealing with these people who are in similar situations, but and it's that business mindset, entrepreneurs like in that same space. Rhea, come here. And I started retreats to take people away, change their environment, take them on an epic adventure, and then bring out like sleep coaches, physios, and nutritionists, and we'd spend the week educating them and immersing them in like a health experience. So before kind of retreats were a thing. And that's what started my retreats company, really. And then since then, Rhea, come here. Since then, I've qualified in psychology, and now I'm trying to bring all of those aspects of mind, body, and how you're feeling up here, your emotion, your psyche, if you like, together into my coaching. So it's not just about, achieving a fitness result. It's and even in sport, you have people who coach that a high level sport in order like to win their boxing match, to win, nutritionists. So we all have coaches. So it's just trying to combine all that together and understand the connection. Rhea, come here. What's this? Come here. Sorry.
All right, no problem at all.
Oh,
I tell you, it's incredible. You speak about, the disappointment and that side of things, but how you've come out of it and the stuff that's come out of it has been so encouraging and so, thought provoking, isn't it? That I thought you were initially going to turn around and say, do you know what? It was the UK. I just moved to Bali. But I wouldn't have blamed you.
Maybe I'd still be. That would.
I wouldn't have blamed you in the slightest. Yeah, you were going to sort of then show me out the window. Do you know what I mean?
I've definitely got the surfboards, but not
but it's you do need that time. They even say to you, I spoke to boxers. Yeah, I need that time. I need that break. I need that shut off to then be able to go again. And like you were saying previously, when you go on and on and on, you reach a point.
I get that, but I didn't in that start of my career, just by circumstances of how I started. But again, they're all lessons, and it is what it is. And maybe my back would have gone at some point anyway. You just you never know. But yeah, I think I've learned a lot through that whole experience, and also the positivity is like, again, boxing, relate it back to the ring. I think I'm a very different person since when I box, it teaches you resilience for sure, all the things, but it's you have to pivot all the time. Your opponent changes, you're losing, you're winning, but if you get too complacent, it's and that's, I guess, what probably what helps me. And I've learned more. I think the ring has taught me more outside of the ring than it's taught in it, if you know what I mean, even through my whole career. And I think that's why I'm really grateful for it, and that's what's helped me pivot everything that I've done, really. No,
100%. And do you know what, it's been an absolute joy chatting to you, because I feel like you've put things into perspective for people. I think especially, as you say, with boxers, they have that sort of tunnel vision when they're in a career, and they don't pay attention to sort of what's going on outside of that, because you're 100% boxing. You have to be 100%. And to know that there is something at the end of it, however long or short your career is, there is always something you can go to. There's always something you can do. And from, you say from your amateur and just to that debut experience, you've learnt so much, and you've taken that out of the sport, and now you're being able to deliver that to people in your way. And I think the boys and girls that come your way as a coach are just going to be so blessed to have someone like you, because you've learnt so much, and I think you've got so much to give, and just as a human being, not just as the boxing. You
make me cry in a minute.
I'm trying. But you've got that life skill, and a lot of people don't have that life skill. So that's going to be a major part of your coaching and what you do as well. So
I think the biggest thing I've learned is that whatever you do in your life, when you're aiming for the goal here, and it's one goal or whatever, you've got to think past that as well. Like, not in terms of necessarily what you want, but like, what if I suddenly, even at the highest level, what if my career ends? What else is there, and what else am I good at? How could I relate that to everything else? I need to get onto my dog training, I think, next.
But just before you go, Jam has come in and he said, who would have been the dream boxing match given the opportunity? Any female, any weight division in a female game?
Katie Taylor. She's always someone I've looked up to. And yeah, I would have loved it. Even if I lost, just for the experience, I would have loved to. Just as a leveler, to jump in, be with someone.
Shared the ring with Katie.
Yeah, and I did some pads with her once in Westfield Shopping Centre, and anyway, I think she would be someone I just would like to level up with and see where I'm at. I'm not saying I would I'd ever have a chance of beating her, but it would have been an amazing experience. So.
Oh, sorry, if you would have won, do you know what I mean? Just let's go with it. Who knows? And yeah. My dog spent the whole interview talking back to Liz's dogs. So the dog's got something out of it as well. But yeah, I'm gonna pick at you for one last thing. Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron in May in Dublin. We're getting the trilogy fight.
Yeah.
What's going to be the outcome?
I'm going to go, because it's in home ground, I'm going to go Katie Taylor, although I think it'll be an awesome fight.
Yeah. I to be fair, the last two have been cracking.
Yeah.
And that's credit to Chantel Cameron as well.
Yeah.
I think she's levels. She's really shown where she's at as well.
Yeah, and you never know. That I wouldn't say no at all to Chantel. I just think Katie's going to have a lot riding in home grounds, and I don't know. But I think Chantel's going to definitely start.
She's got to come out, and she
go.
For
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But honestly, Liz, I think you're an absolute star. I haven't made you cry, so I haven't been successful.
Come
on, you're not meant to say that. But yeah, honestly, it's absolute pleasure having you on. You've made me feel like I've learned a lot just by what you've said. You've got a lot of wisdom, and I think what you can pass on as a coach, I think, is going to be really valuable to the next crop coming through. So you're going to be a real credit. So honestly, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. And maybe some of my boxers will be on there next time.
Honestly, bring them on. Bring them on. More the merrier at this end. Say big shout out to the dogs as well. They played their part.
Hey, you've been a nightmare.
Gone quiet now. But yeah, honestly, Liz, thank you very much. And stay in touch, won't you?
Will do. Thanks so much, Joel.
No problem. Take care. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.